Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to include graphic images and sounds in your projects. Now, please remember that you need to focus on the functionality of your project first before worrying about bells and whistles like this. However, some of you have asked me for this video, so here it is. So the basic idea with graphics and sound is it's a two-step process. First, you have to load the file from your hard drive, and then you need to modify your drawing command, which we were using FillRect, to draw that graphic instead. So you can see I'm back in the Collision demo project now, and what I'm going to do is inside the blue spaceship class, I'm going to have it draw an actual spaceship instead of using this FillRect command down here inside the draw method. So the first step is to go get a graphic. So it's pretty typical inside your project file to create a new directory to store these things. We're going to go ahead and create a folder now called Assets, and in this folder is where we're going to put all of our graphics and any of our sounds and other items that we might want to import into our project. So first, to go get a graphic, I went ahead and looked up on the internet for Blue Spaceship. You can see here that this is the graphic that I found. Please make sure that all of the graphics that you use in your project are not covered by a copyright. This one was made freely available. And I went ahead and downloaded it to my desktop here. And now I will go ahead and drag it into my assets folder in IntelliJ. And so now you can see that file is in IntelliJ. So the first step is to go ahead and cite your work. I got this spaceship image from a website, so I'm going to go ahead and paste that URL as a comment into my project here. Next up, we need to create a variable that is going to hold this image in memory. So that will be a private buffered image. It could be image, but buffered image has certain advantages in terms of speed. So I'm going to call that the ship image variable. And I'm going to go ahead and import the required libraries here. Secondly, when I create my blue spaceship, I'm going to want to load that image from a file. And so that code looks something like this. I won't need to set the color anymore because I have this graphic now, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that line. So the ship image is going to be loaded from a special library, which we find in image.io, IO for input output, .read, and that will read in a new file. And when you create a new file, you have to specify two things. One, the directory that the file is saved in, and two, the name of the file. So those are both string parameters. This is saved in my assets folder, and it is called blue ships1.png. And yes, spelling and case sensitivity matter. These two libraries will have to be imported, so I'll go ahead and import that. And then I will go ahead and import image.io. And now we're getting an error. Because we are reading from a disk, and you can also read a URL off of a website directly, those are going to throw I.O. exceptions. Now, we could, in the past, what we've done is we have warned Java with a throws I.O. exception up here, but we're going to do something a little bit differently this time. We're going to isolate that I.O. exception just to this few lines of code. And the way that you do that in Java is you enclose it in what's called a try-catch statement. So the way that it works is inside the try portion of a try-catch, you put the code that is going to be possibly dangerous, that might throw the exception. And then the second part of try catch, of course, is the catch statement. And in that catch, you specify what exception you are able to handle. We will be handling the IO exception. And then finally, what to do as a result if the IO exception is thrown. So all that we're going to do is simply print out all of the methods that have been called that led to this exception. This is analogous to what Java does anyway when an exception is thrown. And now that we've loaded our image from the file, we can go ahead and scroll down to the draw method, and we're going to use the g.drawImage command to display it on the screen. So we won't need this g.fillRect anymore. I'm going to go ahead and comment it out. And instead, I'm going to replace it with g.drawImage. And you can see here that IntelliJ is suggesting many different versions of the drawImage command. I'm going to use one of the simpler ones where I'm just going to specify the image that we want to draw. So that was the ship image. And then we are going to specify the X location. And we will specify the Y location. And all versions of drawImage require this last parameter called an image observer. More on that later, but for right now we can just go ahead and say null, and we'll go ahead and run our program and see what that looks like. So I think you can see the problem. The image that we downloaded is quite large, and by just specifying the default location, we display its original size. So we are going to go ahead and modify that drawImage command and also specify, just like we did in fillRect, a width and a height. And you can see with that example why this is so necessary. It also is necessary to make sure that your hitbox is consistent with the image that you are displaying. So I'll go ahead and specify width and height there. And that's how you draw an image. You can see our hitbox is working perfectly. The image is now on the screen instead of a rectangle. We are good to go. And that's the basics of how you include a graphic image in your game. Now let's look at sound. Okay, now we're going to take a look at including audio in our project. You can see here that I have already downloaded an audio file, explosion.wav, short for wave. This is the only format that Java supports natively. If we wanted to play an MP3 or some other file format, we would have to install custom libraries, and that may appear in a future video. But for right now, please make sure that you're downloading WAV files for your sound and sound effects. Also, please make sure that you are citing your source. You can see here that I got it from a website called Free Sound Effects under the explosion category. And the idea is basically the same as we did for images. We need to create a sound clip object, and then we need to open that from the file. And then finally, when we're ready, we're going to issue a play command. So I'm going to go ahead and create those two fields right here. The first one is going to be called an audio input stream, and I will simply give it that same name for right now. And secondly, we need to create a clip object, which I will name the sound clip. These are both libraries that you'll need to import, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then here in my constructor, I'm going to go ahead and make the links to those files. So the audio input stream is the first thing that we need to get a link to. So I will go ahead and initialize it here, audio input stream equals, and normally we might say new audio input stream here, but dealing with sound is a little different. So we're going to go ahead and use the audio system class. And we will get an audio input stream. And we're just going to get this from a file. So I'm going to create a new file just like we did for images. It is in the assets folder, and it is called explosion.wav. And please make sure that you pay attention to case sensitivity and spelling. So of course the file class we're going to have to import here. Just going to remind you that I'm over here in Drawing Panel because I'm going to play this sound when we collide, and I am checking for collisions inside the Drawing Panel class, not inside Blue Spaceship or Green Laserbeam. This method throws an exception, so we could go ahead and use a try-catch statement here to handle that. But it turns out for audio input, there are quite a few exceptions that might be thrown, and it's going to mess up a lot of our code if we keep adding try-catches for each one of them. So I'm going to go ahead and just add those exceptions to the method signature. So you can see here, get audio input stream throws two possible exceptions. They've now been added to the method signature just to warn Java that that may occur. So the next step is to initialize the sound clip. Again, we might say new sound clip here, but again, because we're dealing with audio, it is a slightly different method. We're going to ask the audio system for a sound clip to play. This also throws a particular exception, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to the method signature. And then finally, I'm going to tell SoundClip precisely which clip I want it to link itself to. And of course, that will be the audio input stream that I created 2 lines above. So now this will correctly load the sound that we want to play. Now all we have to do is play it in the right place. So looking down here at Paint Component, I know that in the past I've said that Paint Component should only be in charge of drawing. I'm going to break that rule a little bit right here just to illustrate how you might play a sound, because I want this sound to play when we are colliding. I do that collision detection right here on this line, and so that is where I'm going to have to put this sound clip. Playing a sound clip is fairly easy. The command to do so with an audio input stream is loop. You can play it as many times as you want, but of course I just want to play it when I collide. Now you're going to see I'm going to have an unexpected result when I do this. Now before I can press play, there is one more exception that needs to be added to this project. Because Collision Demo is the class that contains my main, and because that is where I'm creating a drawing panel, and since Drawing Panel throws all sorts of exceptions, I need to add those to the method signature for Collision Demo itself. So I will go ahead and have Java add those. Finally, when I create a new collision demo, again, because these exceptions are being thrown here, there, and everywhere, I'm going to need to add those exceptions here as well. And with that, we're finally ready to press play. Let's go ahead and see what happens. So we got partial results. We got 4 explosions instead of just the 1. So we'll go back and check our code. And when we look at our drawing panel collision detection code, you can see that, yeah, we did specify just play it 1 time. What's happening is that Green Laserbeam is colliding with the spaceship several times, and each time that it does collide, the sound clip plays. So we're going to have to introduce some extra logic to make sure that we only play it the first time we collide. That is probably going to involve another Boolean or maybe a collision counter that we increment to prevent the clip from playing more than once. I may add that functionality in a future video, but for right now I'm going to leave it to you to try and solve that problem. Well, you can see there were a few more things to worry about with sound than there were for graphic images, but it's still fairly simple. We'll look at some more advanced properties of images and sounds in future videos. For now, I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching.